Good morning. Oh, no, it's not morning, actually. It's good evening. And welcome to Authentic Conversations, where we have authentic conversations so we can change our lives and become authentic, right? My name is Moji Wilson. It's been a while, so welcome. Um, if you're new to the page, this is Moji Wilson's page. It used to be Moji's World. Now we have conversations that's hard to have amongst each other. I actually was going to start talking about chatting with the village and such, but you know, the village is all across the globe. And the reason why I started to that was in the past they used to say that it takes a village to raise a child. And as I get older, my children are becoming older. I look around me at my friends and I see that a lot of them are going through almost the same thing that I'm going through. We're just too ashamed to talk about it in public. So, you know me. Anytime something's had to talk about, oh, of course, Moji's going to want to talk about it. Anyways, bear me with me 1 second. Grab a soda, a wine, a glass of wine, something. It's Sunday afternoon and evening. And I want us to all be able to have these conversations with each other. So here goes. Welcome again to Authentic Conversations. Long time no see. If you're here, please say hello so I know that you're there. And I'm trying to put up the link to the studio so that if anybody would like to join me, they can. And the reason I'm inviting people in is because I am actually tired of having these conversations by myself, right? And it seems like the more conversations we have amongst each other, seems to get a little bit better. Some people tell me they feel they get a bit more comfortable, yada, yada, yada. So let's try and have this conversation in a manner that is respectful and all of that amazingness. As soon as I um I am able to do this, right? Let's have this conversation. Let's talk to each other, not at each other, because it's a very sensitive topic. So if you're on Facebook and you're on my personal page, I'm not sure that you'll be able to make a comment. So you might want to flip over to my personal page. And let me see if I can just open it up so that we're all able to have this conversation with each other. The one that really got to me happened this week, right? As you guys know, I have my own challenges, right? Because I grew up with parents or a father that was not, I was 30 by the first time I heard my father say, I love you. He thought I had to ask the man, are you dying or something, right? I I asked my dad, I'm like, are you okay? Because I thought something was wrong because he had never said I love you, right? And now you have to remember that a lot of us are living in outside the United States and such. And children of African parents are actually expecting their parents who know nothing, whose love language is usually not I love you, verbal. I knew my father loved me because of the way he treated me, because he took care of me, because he paid the bills, because he made sure I got a good education, and things of that nature. But in 2023, we have Nigerian and I think children across the globe in general, the world is changing. I get it. The world is becoming a lot smaller, and information is traveling very fast, unfortunately. The information that travels the fastest is actually wrong information. Yeah. So we're now in an era where people, a lot of parents my age, and I'm going to be 60-year old soon. A lot of parents my age are complaining about their children not being empathetic, not being sympathetic, not being compassionate, not having couth. So I had to ask them, did you teach them all of these things? Did they see you exude these things and they just chose to go the other way? And a lot of times, what I'm seeing is because I engage with a lot of young people, what I'm finding is that a lot of people are self centered. A lot of younger generations are very self centered. It's all about me, see me. And I get that we're in a social media age where there's so much effigy. For the non Nigerians, effigy means um, fluff. It's like the more fluff, the louder the people's voices. The people that you should hear from, you don't even hear from because they're kind of quiet because there's so much misinformation out there. And for some reason, a lot of information that's being sent out to this young generation, they don't vet it. They don't read anymore. They read the preface of the book. They read the back of the book. They read the first page of the book. And then they go to Chat GPT to get a synopsis of the book. So they're not really getting the full information that they should. So I started to ask myself, is it time that we go back to moral basic, simple things? Please, when you want something from someone, thank you when they give you something. And then, just compassion and empathy, simple things, simple things. I'm going to start. I always start with my story. Most of you that follow me already know who I am, and you understand you've been there along my journey. You've traveled this journey called life. 9. I've been very quiet lately because I've experienced a lot of emotional turmoil with the family dynamic, with step parenting, my wife coming into, my life and trying to help me to build a better life, sort of created a lot of problems in my home with my children, who I had made the center of my life. Pretty much, I became successful to make sure that they were okay. They never, in my eyes, they didn't suffer. In their eyes, they were suffering. Me thinking, oh, look, I'm running 3 businesses at the same time. I'm working almost 18, 20 hours to make sure that you get a good education, to make sure that you get the food, It wasn't enough. Now I know. All right. And then you have to, a lot of us in my age are single parents by choice or by life accident, whatever. And I realized that a lot of us parented from a place of guilt. And because a lot of us parented, especially Black women, from a place of guilt, what ended up happening is that we allowed our children to walk over us. We allowed ourselves to become doormat, guilty. And everybody that tried to tell me anything different from the fact that I had amazing children, they became the enemy. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. But that is my truth. And I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pretend, and I've shared a lot of my journey with you guys. But then I look around me and I look at a lot of my friends. They're going through the same thing. The difference between them and me and I is that Moji, 2 or 3 years ago, or maybe 5 years ago, started to put boundaries. I wanted respect. Don't text me, hey, because I'm not a horse. Hey is for horses. Don't just talk bow to me any which way you want. And of course, a few of my kids walked away, and that's okay. Because you have to remember, at least for you heterosexual people, you don't have to deal with the underlying misogyny. For you straight people, you don't have to deal with the underlying basic homophobia that goes along with mine. Right. And sometimes people don't even know that they're being homophobic. They just, I'm not getting the same respect that I would for my wife from my children because she's a woman. If I had married a man, it would have been totally different. Right. The man would have been the hero that jumps in. Mind you, my wife, because of the love she has for me, has always done anything and everything for the kids. So now let's flip it to the heterosexual world, where a man life as a heterosexual woman, and you already have children from a previous relationship by whatever way. You might be a widow, you might be a single parent by choice or by divorce or whatever the case is, right? Remember that when you're a single parent, even double parent homes are struggling. So when you bring it to the single parent home, which I am not focused on single parenting today it's just about parents to show the different dynamics. So when you bring it to the single parent home, what usually happens is that by the time you run around all day, by the time you do all the work that you're supposed to do outside and you come home, you clean, you do it, you're too tired. At least I was. There would be days that the kids would leave dishes in the sink, and instead of going to them to get them up, whatever time I get home, 11, 12, whatever, 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever time, right? I would just do the dishes because I didn't want to fight. But what I started to teach them is that I'm the maid and I'm the cook and I'm the cleaner and all of that. And what I see is kind of scary because I'm not the only one going through that. And a lot of you guys are going through the same thing. You're just not talking about it. But I think it's time we talked about it. So lately I've been hanging out with a bunch of young people, right? Because I mentor a lot of young people. And I notice the same thing happening over and over. Basic things like, somebody buys you something, you're supposed to say thank you. Basic things like, there's food in the house, and, I cook a meal, and there's, let's say, five that weekend in the house, right? Because I try and bring young people around us to see that these things are possible. But what I notice is that these kids will go in the kitchen after I have cooked and cleaned and, set everything up. They don't worry about it. The fact that has Auntie Moji eaten, they don't care. They'll just eat it, right? They don't care about taking the last things out of the fridge or the stove. Just basic human compassion and empathy. And my sons did the same thing. I didn't even see it as a bad thing then. Can you imagine? Oh, I'm so embarrassed. But I didn't see it as anything bad in those days. And what I realized from watching other people's children is I see the common denominator. And that is self-centeredness. Because if there's, let's say, 5 eggs in the fridge and there's 4 of us in the house, or 3 of us, or 7 of us, right? You shouldn't make 4 eggs for yourself. And the least you can do is ask everybody else in the house, would you like some eggs? They don't do that. These kids no longer do that. The way I grew up, you cannot walk into the fridge and see that there's a bit of something. You'll ask first, is this yours? Is this mine? Oh, can I have it? Or even leftovers. You're not supposed to just walk into the kitchen and eat somebody's leftovers. There was a day I had a guest over, young person over, and my wife had eaten some stuff that I wanted to eat the next day. So I put it away and I brought it out, left it on the countertop, went to my room to do something, and I come back out, boom, the food is gone. I was stunned. I'd never seen anything like it. But then I remembered my children used to do the same thing to me, but I never even corrected them. So here is the problem that I'm 2023. When we raise our children to be rotten, bad people, because that's what they are. Children are not your children. They're not my children. They're little people that we brought into the world. And it took me a long time to make that connection in my head. Because when I see my biological children, because I have a lot of them now, when I see my biological children, all I see when I used to call them children are the tiny little 7-pounder, 5-pound kids that I brought home from the hospital. So I recommend that people stop calling their children children, because that's why you have 40-year-old children, I call them bomboys, living in the basement of their parents. And that's another thing. We're now living in a world where everybody gets a prize. There's no more excellence. People are upset when you tell them to push their children. Look, I want my children to be whatever they want to be. But I want them to be the best version of themselves, because believe it or not, the world is a very competitive space. So you coming home with an A in the olden days, coming home with a B, my father would tell you, this child got an A. You need to do better the next time. Here we start buying them presents because they got a B or a C or even a D. A D. And I can't further the little people we bring into the world themselves. I must speak the truth. We are majority of the problem. We, parents, biological parents, because when I look at people that are the village that's helping us to raise our children, they see these things clearly. We don't. What we think is cute is narcissistic behaviors. A lot of children, young people are not, they lack a sense of loyalty. They lack a sense of commitment. They don't want to work. They don't want to go to school. They don't want to work. Not understanding that Puff Daddy on social media works more hours than the average person that goes to work, because the guy is a millionaire. He has a lot of bills to pay. You just don't see that. My day starts at 3 a.m. at his house. My day starts at 3 a.m. I continuously work throughout the day because I'm running 3 businesses. Look, Don't let the people that are unboxing Louis Vuitton, unboxing Chanel, unboxing these things, don't let them fool you. Half of them can't afford that stuff. Half of them buy it and take it back. They buy it on credit and take it back. Those are the people that our children are emulating. And part of the problem is that we don't tell them the truth. We don't tell the young people that we bring into the world the truth about our journey. I remember there was a time that I was going through a really rough time when the real estate market crashed. Imagine coming from a 15-room house to being homeless in like less than 6 months. Not by my doing, because I didn't crash the market. It was just what was going on in 2008. And I was going through a divorce and all. I was coming into myself and going through a divorce at that time. All my jewelry I sold, all my Louis Vuitton and this and that I sold, but I never told my children that I was selling these things to support the household. I even sold my car and bought a bicycle, but they didn't know why I did that because I didn't tell them. I sold my car, bought the two big girls' cars, so they would not have to depend on anybody. And I bought a bicycle as a real estate broker in New York and rode that bicycle for almost a year until, and I started to do deals and I started to save money because I didn't know when the market was going to turn. But I didn't explain it to my children. Imagine if I had explained it to them so they can understand what's going on. And mommy is not just being a Scrooge, but we don't tell them the truth. We don't tell them who we are. We don't allow them to see us, the good, the bad, and the ugly. They go out there and they hero worship the wrong people. And I have nothing against rappers and musicians. Everybody has their own place. But when we start to make people whose values are not aligned with ours, when we start to allow our children to see them as the heroes and not regular Mr. John that's running around, delivering mail, when we don't allow our children to see the value in hard work, how then do we expect them to do that? I know a young man that went to school the whole of last year, whose family scraped together 300,000 naira to send him to school. He just decided he didn't feel like it, and he didn't go to school he didn't pass one single class because he never even went to class. My son did the same thing in America. So it's not that I'm shaming anybody. I'm telling you what's going on out there. So parents are struggling with bills, but we're not sharing with them our journey and how hard it is to make money. We're not making them get jobs. I got my first job. I came to this country, I think I was almost 17. My first job I got 6 months after that. After I came into America, I was working. All my children started working by the time they were 14. My youngest son started working as an event in an event planning company, and his job was to put up all those blow things that they put up for children's parties and things at 14. All the time I was buying him cell phones, he would break them within 6 months. When he had to work almost 2 to buy one phone, that's when everything changed around him. That's when he started to see the value of a dollar. When you don't allow your children, your family members, your whatever to work. Look, in America, it's $10 an hour. $10 an hour. Half of your children are walking around with cell phones that Moji doesn't. I'm still on my iPhone 12. Your kids are walking around with iPhone 13s. iPhone 13, $1,100 iPhones. That's what you're using. What are you teaching them? You're teaching them that you can get something for nothing. You're teaching them that they can go out there and beg for money. You're teaching them that they are more important than the bills in the home. I was in a shop 3 days ago to fix my phone, and the gentleman, a Mexican guy that obviously, he came with a truck that said landscaping, whatever on it. And he comes into the store and he's looking at this cute. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cute. Yada, yada, yada. The phone was $1,200. He was buying it for his daughter, his 5-year-old daughter. A $1,200 cell phone. When this girl is 21, graduating hopefully from university, please tell me, what is she going to be carrying? We're not leaving room for people to aspire to anything. Look, part of that I'm seeing these days is this sense of entitlement. I went on IG the other day. Oh my God, I was so upset. I literally was livid. A young woman that that my wife and I were mentoring for a minute, that we had helped a few times financially, came back, sent me a text one day out of the blues after not hearing from this person. After we gave her the money, 2 days later, 2 weeks later, we found out she got married, right? So we found out on social media. We didn't even know she was getting married that day, back then. We found out on social media that this girl got married, and we didn't say anything. We still kept going because the money that she had gotten from us obviously was to do the wedding. We had sent her like whatever it was, right? Big, big money because we thought it was for school. Turned out it wasn't. She got married 2 weeks after that. No wahala. She goes away to the school abroad, right? Doesn't communicate, doesn't do anything. Then I get a text one early morning, about 3 a.m. in the morning. Hey, Auntie Moji, I would like to ask you something. I'm like, sure, please do. It's kind of too early to talk. The girl sends me a text. I'd like you to borrow me at 1.5 million. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? 1.5 million, really? I don't know what just happened just there. But if you can hear me, let me know. I'm like, 1.5 million. 1.5 million naira she wanted to borrow from me through text. What happened to the good home training? Pick up your phone, call the person, have conversation with them, at least respect that person. But we're doing via text. So I said, no, I'm sorry. We have the Solo Wilson Scholarship Program. We have a lot of things that we're working on right now. And I'm not going to do that because, first of all, you shouldn't even have sent a text. You should have, common courtesy. It's just called respect. So this girl goes on and she writes up, I lie. We got to do better as parents. Oh. This particular girl goes on IG. Let me go find it for you. And she puts up a post about people. Hold on, let me read it to you because I was going to actually post it. I wasn't going to talk about it, but she posted, not everyone has your best interest at heart, and not everyone wants to see you succeed. Some people like you better broken and needing them for assistance. This is somebody we gave loads of money to because the person was trying to get to the UK, right? They secretly get pleasure from your struggles. They will never support anything you make to make you grow, but will give you pennies. Will give you pennies so you can come back and ask for more. That's how they want you, below them. Sometimes they feel you don't deserve better than they, so they never assist you. First of all, when somebody gives you something, they're already above you. Because if you were above them or on the same level as them, you will not come and beg for money. Second of all, you didn't work and give them the money to hold for you. Look, $10 an hour is what the average person makes in America. For somebody to give you 1.5 million naira, that's 2,000 American dollars. Divide that by $10 an hour. Somebody please put in the chat how many hours that person is working to give $2 an hour. To give you that 1.5 million that you're about to borrow that you'll probably never pay back. Because the almost 1 million that you got before was a gift, not a borrow. So then we're at the point in life where people think they're entitled to your sweat because of the way their parents raised them. Even parents go, the way we deal with our children is like they're our friends. They can't be our friends. We're like coaches. Our job is to coach them, make them do the hard work now so they can have a better tomorrow. But because we're looking for our children to be our friends, part of the problem is that we don't tell them the truth. We don't make them do the hard work. Imagine if I'd woken up at 3 a.m. in the morning and made my son, when I realized he didn't do the dishes, imagine if I'd made him get up to go and do them. When he leaves my home, he will respect me. He would respect himself. And then he would respect others. But we are allowing these people we bring into the world to talk bad to us. We're allowing them. We now live in a world where people don't even want to work for their money anymore. They just think they can call somebody and get it. And you parents go, when somebody brings your child to their home and they come back to you, in the olden days when somebody gave us gifts, my father used to make me write handwritten thank you notes. When I go to somebody's house and they feed me, or they give me sugar, they give me tea and biscuits in those days, I would have to write thank you, handwritten thank you notes. Today, the kids don't say thank you. The parents text and say thank you. Honey, you need to call. Pick up the phone and make that phone call. But if we parents lack couth ourselves, because I see the way we engage on social media, if we, the parents, lack couth, if we, the parents, lack compassion, if we, the parents, have a mentality of everybody owes us something, why then do we think our children will do any better? And I'm not saying all parents are like that. I was definitely not like that. I didn't expect, I mean, I worked 3 businesses, for crying out loud. And one of my children still turned out kind of funky and rotten because I allowed him to be that way. Because there's no consequences. We don't give consequences. When I get upset with my kids, I'll take their phone. Within 24 hours, if I'm supposed to keep it for a week, by the time they go, nya, 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 I'll break down because I'm tired. See, when they said it takes a village to raise a child, nobody is saying it takes more, it takes a man and a woman or da, 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 da. It takes more than one person, because when you're tired, somebody else can lift you up. And the blind spots, because nobody, as I'm sitting here, I can't see my back. The blind spots that we miss as biological parents, because we have this woo-wah-wah ideology of our children. It's important to have others that can tell us about our children's behavior. In the past, when you see a child misbehaving, you stepped in. Honey, the last time I did that, the mother abused me in the supermarket. She called me all kinds of names, and it turned out to be a Nigerian woman too. It was crazy. But we no longer allow to even get to know us. I get that it's a crazy world and you have the people running around, the pedophiles and all that stuff, and rape, and it's there. But we're not equipping these people that we bring into the world emotional intelligence. We're not equipping them with the ability to sustain themselves. That's why a lot of parents are still having their children in the basement. A woman called me last week. I changed the topic of this show today because a woman called me from Facebook 4 days ago. And she was sobbing. She was hysterically sobbing, and she called me. And I had to talk her off the ledge. Her son, who had gone to one of the best schools in America, I won't say the place, that she took financial aid, she took student loans out for, in her name. She co-signed for him. So in order for her credit not to be ruined, she's been making these payments and making these payments. And then a few years has gone by, the kid's still not making the payment. So she phoned him up, because she's almost 62. She phoned up this 30-something-year-old boy actually, and said, I need you to help me pay off the student loan. The kid sends her back a text. He said, let me call you back. He sends her back a text saying, I am trying to build my life. I didn't ask you. I only went to the Ivy League college because to make you happy. Hey, Chineke God. As she's sobbing, tears are welling up in my eyes, because it's words I've heard before. It's words that I have heard before. See, when you for your children, when you do everything for your children and you don't allow them to do things for themselves, this is where we end up. I told you before, my youngest son left his house with a 3.8 average, never had a job a day in his life, so he didn't understand the value of the dollar, obviously. The first month he was in school, he spent $3,000 on his credit card on food. Yet he had a full meal plan, 17 meals a week in school. Then he decided not to go to class for a month. Guess what happened? He got kicked out. So all those tens of thousands of dollars that we spent on this kid, private boarding school, high school, gone. And when I complained, he said, I didn't ask you. So that I didn't ask you mentality, we got to do something about it. I know we're in a TikTok generation where there's so much information out there. You guys have given your 5-year-old iPhones where they can go to name it. I've seen 10-year-olds on the playground watching pornography. I have seen 12-year-old girls looking like ashawos with their dress cut all the way to here. You can see their whole ovaries. You're the ones buying these people's clothing. Why are you buying them clothing that even me, a 60-something-year-old woman, would not wear? That's not age appropriate. That their bazooka joes are all over the place. These kids are growing up way too fast. They're losing their childhood because we are not taking the time to discipline, to teach them manners. Table manners, what is that? Half these kids don't know how to use a cutlery. But you, the parents, are running around in Range Rovers that you have bought on credit. So you're working 4 or 5 jobs instead of spending time with your kids to take care of them. And I'm not saying that you should not live comfortably, but I'm saying that once you make the obligations, once we, biological parents, make the obligation to have children, it's our job to train them to be good citizens so they don't go around breaking other people. It's our job to train them, not to be their best friend, not to be their cuddly. You can do that. You can be kind. You can be compassionate, but you can still be a parent. That's what I learned. Because I remember the days where I would sit down and have meetings with my kids. I'm the one making the money. And I would have meetings with all of them. What should we spend the extra on this month? Like, we don't own a corporation together. But those Oyinbo people that told us that that's the way to do it, let me tell you, that's not how they do it in their house. I've been in Texas. These kids say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir. That's how they speak to adults. But as children, African children, Black children will call me. I don't even call elders by their name. They would see me and say, hey, Moji, and the parents will correct them right there. Respect should be basic home training. Compassion should be basic home training. Because when you are all running around telling your kids, oh, you're the king, you're the man of the house at 10 or 12, you're raising monsters that will go around thinking that everybody should be their subject. When you go around telling your children that don't have a kingdom, that they're kings and queens, they will treat you like garbage. And there's this new thing in the Nigerian American community. Those of us that came before you to create a better life for you, now you're disrespecting and calling us names on TikTok and talking crap about us. It's not your fault, though. You know, one of the things I appreciate my mother-in-law for a long time, I would blame my mother for all my wrong choices. I would blame my dad for all my wrong choices. You know, my mother-in-law one day asked me, if your mother had taken you with her instead of leaving you with your father that gave you the best education, that, you know, made your life very comfortable. Yeah, he didn't hug and kiss you. But your mother, if you had gone with her, where would you be today? I'll probably be some malams because my mother is Muslim. I would have been a 4th or 10th pin cushion of a malam. But I'm sitting here today. Yes, I suffered. Yes, I've been through a lot. But all those things are what made me the strong person that I am today. All the struggles, all the falls, all the bruises and the bumps that I went through is what makes me who I am today. Why am I sharing that story? I'm sharing that story because a lot of you young people follow me and you're arrogant to your parents. You're condescending to your parents that put you through school, suffered for you to be here. You don't even know what it took a lot of us to get a state to be here so that you can be born here. You have no idea how some people are doctors in Nigeria, and when they come here, they have to drive a cab so you can be born here. You have no idea how your parents are working 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 jobs Because some of them would go to 2 jobs. I have nurse friends that will go to 2 jobs, 3 to 11 to 7, and in between that they're running side businesses for you to be able to have a good life. And then you turn around and say you did not ask them. How dare you? When was the last time you picked up the phone and called your mother just to see how she's doing? She gave up her today so you can have a better tomorrow. But let me talk to you parents for a moment. It's time you stop doing that. Look, when your child is an infant, yes, they're dependent on you. Once they start hitting 5, they should be making their beds. Once they start hitting 10, they should be helping you cook in the kitchen. Not only are you teaching them to be responsible, you're getting them ready to be productive, self-sufficient adults. Because you won't be too tired all the time. Now, if they are helping you clean and cook and doing all of that, you can now take the time to spend with them playing, I don't know, Monopoly, Bergamo, go outside and take them for a walk, spend quality time with them, because it's not just material things these kids need. They don't need a 300 pair of sneakers. They need a role model that they can be around, that they can see. And if you know that you are not able to do that, find somebody that can do that. It's called mentorship. My wife and I mentor a lot of children, young adults, not children. We mentor straight, gay, whatever young adults. And we're very strict. We're very strict because we understand why it's important to have boundaries. When your children are not disciplined by you, and I don't mean spanking, I don't mean beating, I don't mean abusing. I'm talking about giving them rules and regulations. They don't understand why they have to answer to authority when they step out the door. They don't understand that when a policeman says stop, because they've been talking to you bow bow inside the house, they'll talk to the policeman bow bow as well. Yes, there's racism, but there's also something called being proactive. I have told every Black young person that I know, when a policeman stops you, you say, yes, sir. Called it Uncle Tom syndrome. But those kids are going to go home to their parents. And then we can sue. But if you're not teaching your children to be respectful at home, how then do you think they'll be respectful to anybody? Go to Twitter and see how the madness is there. They lack sense of self. They don't know who they are. Twitter is telling them, and TikTok tells your kids who they are because you're not having those hard conversations with them. You're not talking to these children, so they don't know. You don't want to talk about sex and sexuality. They'll find out online. They'll find out. And now look, if you're just plain gay, straight, white, you're boring. If you're just a straight Black person in America these days, you're boring. Because people that are other are getting more attention. Instead of us creating an inclusive space for everybody, everything don't topple over. With their children. There's no reason why you cannot have that conversation with your 10-year-old child. When the 10-year-old child comes to you and says, oh, mommy, I think I'm gay. Oh, face your books. Face your books, because 10-year-olds should not be having sex anyways, right? So why all this drama, where is it coming from? And I'm a lesbian. Are we serious people? Or are we just looking to destroy the world? Because the world feels very crazy to me these days. People are afraid to speak the truth. I made a lot of mistakes because I didn't have any guidance. I was dropped at the airport by myself, handed to some Onyibo person that drove me to a place that I didn't know a single soul for. And then a week later, they dropped me off in boarding school. And there began the journey of Moji. Nobody to guide me. That's why I do what I do. But your children, your people that you brought into the world have you. I'm finding a lot of young adults young Black men living in their mother's house, in the basement, at 40, at 50. What the hell did you teach these kids? 2 years ago, when I said to my son, I'm sorry, I'm no longer willing to take abuse from you. I'm no longer willing to allow you to beat me up emotionally. I gained 30 pounds in 2 years because this kid just didn't want to do the right things. I cut him off. My hair fell out. That was 2 years ago. My hair fell out. But guess what? Guess what? Today, I heard he's working. Today, I heard he's going to school. Because when you make things too easy for people, they don't see the value. And that's why I'm sitting here and saying sometimes you have to simulate hardship for your children. They live in your house, do something. Make them do something so that they understand the value that you bring to the table, so that they can see the value in them that they bring to the table when they're helping you. If your sons and daughters live in your house, charge them rent. They do that in the UK all the time. In America, we don't do that. A lot of us, Black people, don't do that. We need to do that. White people do it all the time. In Nigeria, you people are trying to be so Americanized and Europeanized. You don't teach your children manners. They can't eating like pigs on the dining table. Begging every Tom, Dick, and Jones. What happened to for money? My inbox is like backed up for days. Even the important messages I can't get to because everybody's in my inbox. They're looking for money for iPhone. Me that I live in America and I'm running 3 businesses, I'm on iPhone 12. Some kid, look, that's my phone. How am I able to do? How can my wife and I do what we are doing and still prepare for our future? Because no child, a lot of you parents, you're on some kind of Kool-Aid. I don't understand though. If you're a parent in 2023 and you think your child is going to support you when you're older, especially Nigerian Americans, they will put you in a nursing home. So if you don't start to save up for your retirement and you continue to look at your children as a retirement plan, you're in for a shocker. I cannot tell you the number of Nigerian people that are in nursing homes while their children are waiting for them to die, or while their children have power of attorney and they're selling their homes and using their monies to buy themselves houses they didn't work for. And you have slaved all your life for your children. You've put them through school because you know Nigerians, we don't like student loans. They need to get that student loan. I'm so happy that Nigeria is even coming up with a student loan, because when that child goes to school and has to make that payment back, they will make sure that they studied. They will make sure they study. A scholarship program. So far, 100 and something kids had gone through. We make sure they have a skin in the game. We make sure we give them a leadership program. We teach them SMART goals. We teach them time management. How many of you guys do that with your kids? We teach them compassion and empathy. We go through books. We have workshops. I never did that with my kids. I never did that with my own children. Because I learned what the right formula is. Maybe not for every child, but for 95% of children. They need boundaries. We give them too much freedom too quickly that they didn't earn. A lot of these kids, when you tell them do this, they'll be like, okay, and then they don't. I told a young man to go and do a to take driver's ed. Driver's ed. Because look, the place you're going to, they don't have buses in that neighborhood. He's like, okay. He didn't. So now when he finally, we block our own blessings. When he finally got to where he was supposed to be going in Michigan somewhere, they didn't have buses. So now God has opened the door, but you didn't do the work. But now you're going to be upset with God because you didn't do the work. We have to teach our children to work for things, because when they work for things, and we're not just dashing them yafun yafun, they will learn that there's a price we pay for everything. They will learn that there's a price you pay for everything. when you take your child to McDonald's 3, 4 times a week at $100 a week. When your child gets their first job and they're making $10 an hour, less taxes, how much does that come to? And they have to pay rent. They can't eat like that. So we have to start preparing them for the real world. If you don't prepare your children for the real world, don't blame white people, though. Because for me, what I have seen, I have had the opportunity, before I used to believe that rhetoric, oh, black people can't make it. Oh my Jesus. Let me tell you, you won't find them on TikTok. You won't find social media. You won't find all these black people that are making it on Facebook because they're busy. Empty barrels are what you find on social media. Empty freaking barrels. And people, a lot of the people that are making it that are black are too afraid of being dragged down by the people that are not making it, because that's usually what happens. I'm not saying there's no racism, but if you prepare your children to go out there into the work, emotional intelligence, you've given them leadership skills at home, you've taught them how to cook, how to clean, how to make their beds, how to engage with people and not feel like the world owes them something, guess what happens? They succeed. They get to the C-suites. Because every time I'm looking for work, for people to work, I have people that work in Nigeria. We have a team that run 2 different businesses in Nigeria. We chose to do that in Nigeria to empower people, but you send them on an errand, they don't circle back, they don't come back. You ask for a deliverable, you have to be chasing them because they lack what? Discipline. And I'm not saying beat your children, that's not discipline. I'm saying give them consequences. So that when they get to the workforce, they understand, my boss is not my mother. Only your mother is going to pamper you and baby you and all that. When your boss is deliverable is on Thursday and you don't give it, the first time you get a warning, the second time you get a warning, the third time they'll give you a pink slip and fire you. No, it's not because you're black, it's because you can't deliver. Ordinary job interview. Oh God, I don't suffer, man. Job interview. A friend's kid was looking for a job, so I made a phone call and sent the resume to my friend who runs her own company. On paper, the girl is qualified. Up here, she's not. Up here, she's thinking because her mother think that she's a princess. Everybody at the job is going to think she's a princess. She got through the first interview, which means she was qualified. The second interview, guess what happened? Second interview, they called her for the second interview. She tells them, I'm going on vacation. Honey, you're going on vacation, but you're looking for a job. That vacation would have to wait. Because if I have that job, that's what I would be thinking if it was her. If I have that job, I can go on 10 more vacations. Right now, I don't have a job. Right now, I shouldn't even be going on vacation. But her mother paid for the vacation. So why do you think she's going to go and apply, do the second interview when her mother is the one that's handicapping her by paying for everything? I'm guilty. I've done that too. At one point, I was anything they need. Oh, give it, give it, give it. Oh, here, here, here. So they would like me. I did them a lot of injustice. But I was very lucky that I met my life partner, my wife, who can see things that I don't see. What I thought, I can't fight today, I'm just going to do the dishes, was made my son think he won. And he can get away with that everywhere else and with everybody else. Right? You don't understand that when you teach your children to be self-centered and everything revolves around your children, you're just making them rotten. When they go to their jobs, they're going to fail. Because they have never been taught how to work for anything. When they go to school, they're going to fail. Because they've never been taught to do what they need to do now so that they can do what they want to do later. I'm on a stage on Clubhouse, was it last week? And a guy was saying, oh, I make 100 figures. And you know, this bees don't respect me. And I'm thinking, this six-figure thing you people are talking about, you're talking about $100,000. Let's even say it's 200, 300, whatever. There are people making 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 million. You are still in the hundreds and you don't buga all over the place. Because your mother or your father, if you're black, more than likely it's your mother, has told you that you're the best thing since peanut butter, and you believed it. When they fire you now, you say it's because you're black. No, it's not because you're black. Misogyny, patriarchy, homophobia runs through our systems. And let me tell you another secret. This is the last point I'm going to make. See those people that are telling you not to do this for your children, not to raise them right? Those people that are telling you they, them, and all kinds of nonsense and na. As young children, they're not doing it for their kids. I repeat, they're not doing that with their children. They're making their children respectable. They're making their children get jobs. They're making their children accountable. But we're too busy trying to be Oyibo. We're losing our culture. We lack home training. We lack common decency. We lack Huth. I remember all my dad had to do was look at me. And I got the message. You can't do that these days. They'll be asking you, is something in your eye? You'll be talking to an elder and your kids will be calling them by their first name and you don't stop them. You'll be talking to people and your kids will be trolling people on social media. You don't stop them. One day they'll come for you. One day they'll come for you. It's happened to me. It's happened to a lot of my friends. I have a friend who told me, Moji, ha ha ha, you think you have a problem? Me and my children, we box. And here I am thinking I was the only one. By the time I was done on the conversation with about 3 or 4 of my friends, I saw that I didn't even have any problems. I realized I had no problem. My problem can be fixed by putting up boundaries, and that's exactly what I did. Boundaries. And you know, one of the saddest things that happened to me last week, I totally blocked it out. I said to one of my sons who called me 2 weeks ago, was it last week? 2 weeks ago, and said, and apologized for the way they treated me. Now he can see clearly. He wouldn't have seen clearly if I didn't cut him off. But now he can see clearly. And I love my children. Love. So I said to the kid, I said, why is it that you treated me badly? He said, you allowed everybody else to treat you bad. So I just thought that was normal. So to all you women that allow people to beat you up, bash you, and men that allow people to talk to you about any which way in front of your children, you need to stop. It doesn't pay. Your children will walk away thinking that's how you want to be treated, and they'll treat you the same exact way. They'll treat you the same exact way. When you don't put up boundaries, you're teaching your children how to outside. When you don't teach them empathy, compassion, you're setting them out to go and be somebody's husband. Useless husband or useless wife. I don't care if you're gay or straight. Useless. We have to do better. A lot better. Because 10 years from now, I'm scared of what the world will look like. 10 years from now, I'm scared that these kids are going to look like there's a TV show called Game of Thrones. We live in a very competitive world. Excellence has now become a 4-letter word. Excellence does not mean you have to be Obama. There's only one Obama. You can never be Steve Jobs. There's only one Steve Jobs. But be the best at whatever it is that you are doing. Learn to do the work. Learn to build a foundation that's solid. Because I tell you, when you do the work today, by the time you're 40, I talk to young people and they're like, oh, I don't want to go to school because, it's taking too long. It's 2 years. Honey, 4 years to go get a BA. six years or 7 years to get your master's, because a BA, first degree now, is like a high school diploma. I don't care what you do, just get that pali. You want to be swinging on a pole, get that pali, because when everything goes south, you have something to fall back on. You want to be a musician, get that pali, get that certificate, learn business management, because it's called show business. Education is a passport to our freedom, folks. And let me tell you, when you're on social media, be very careful, because you don't know who's watching you. Everywhere you go, there's footprints. Now, before they hire you, guess what they do? They Google your name, they do a social media sweep. If you've been bullying gay people, if you've been bullying women, if you're misogynistic,
I'm not sure I understand.
I'm not talking to you, Cyril. Sorry. Be careful how you engage. Teach your children respectful. Teach your children to have compassion and empathy. I'm not asking you to teach them how to be doormats. I'm asking you from the bottom of my heart that we all need to start to train our children to be humans that are going to go into the world and do good for humanity. But we, the parents, it starts from us, and then the people we bring into the world, must meet us halfway. A lot of people are they're choosing not to have children. If I didn't have my children before and I now know what I know, I wouldn't have children. I would adopt, I would foster, I would help to raise other people's children, aside of the fact that my body will still always be lepalicious. But to go through all that pain, to have my body jacked up, to gain all kinds of weight, to go through emotional turmoil, to sacrifice my sanity, my children in a healthy space, and end up where I am today, I don't think it's worth it for me. For a lot of you guys, it is. And for you guys that are raising young men, you got to stop telling them they're kings and queens. They're kings, because a king should have a castle. A king should have a kingdom. Teach them how to become kings. Don't tell a black boy at 2 years old that he's a king. He's a man of the house. No, he's not. He's a boy. Let him be a boy. Teach them how to be respectful, compassionate, empathetic, which will now give them confidence in themselves. Let them see their worth. Teach them to do right things, to have integrity. All these get rich quick things that people want to do so they can buy $300, $600 sneakers. Rich people don't even buy those things. I have suffered in my life. Rich people don't. I mean, I sit around. When we go to the village, I sit with people that are private planes are landing on these. They're not carrying Louis Vuittons. They carry good stuff, but they refuse to advertise for everybody. But we black people are the first one online. We'll queue for 6 hours to buy the latest Nike sneakers. 6 hours. Some people will sleep overnight, but they won't do that to get into Howard University. They won't do that to get into Harvard University. They won't stay up all night for their children, with their children, to study for the SATs that's going to get them good grades to get into good universities. They won't do that. I remember going from a 4-bedroom, 5-bath, 15-room house to a room in a friend's house with mattresses on the floor. My first apartment was a 2-bedroom. 2-bedroom. And there were 4 of us. And we managed, and we grew and grew and grew. Some of my children got the life lessons. The last one, because by the time he got to the last one, I was super comfortable. You know, he didn't get the life lessons. So I think it's time we stop giving our children what we lacked. Well, we didn't have, because I smothered mine with love. I didn't have love growing up. My father was everybody else's father. He had 31 children. So I smothered them with love. And I'm very intentional about the words that I use. Like smothering chicken, you drown it in love. When you smother something, it's not a good thing. It's not. Life lessons don't come cheap. But if we don't start having these conversations amongst each other, I'm telling you, it's just going to get worse. Into parents do everything for their children, and the world is kid-centered. Everything revolves, shuku to you for having the courage to speak the truth. Everything is centered around the child. A child that cannot drive, that cannot vote, that cannot buy alcohol, that cannot buy cigarettes, is being allowed to do stuff to themselves. And then when they're 15, 16, they're all complaining now. See, I get the fact, because I say this, I have to put this out there. Parents, we didn't get any training. If you come from a dysfunctional home and you didn't get therapy, and by the way, you got to be careful with the therapists that you take your children to, because now everything is about, oh, your parents are bad. Oh, natural your parents, delete your parents, block them, all this and all that. When all we are the ones trying to help to set them on a good path. But trauma has become a commodity. So if I send my child to a therapist at $150 an hour, do you really think they're going to come back and tell me there's nothing wrong with him? He's just lazy. They want to make that money, so they're going to keep your child in there for a time. So be careful. Some of them do that. But the point I'm trying to make is that everything is centered around the children, forgetting that the parent, if I am not okay here, my children are not going to be okay. It took me a long time to learn that. A lot of you single mothers will never get married because your children will continue to sabotage your relationships. Kinshiply, it's a fact. I have a friend whose son told him, I'm going to be cool with you. She's going through a divorce. If you, Nigerian woman, her son told her that she couldn't date. If she ever dates anybody, he would walk away from her. I'm like, what? Iru nonsense. What kind of nonsense is that? Since when do your children have the right to tell you, a grown-ass person that's paying their own bills, how to live your life? This kid is 20 years old. He's going to find a woman or a man, I don't know what his gender or sexuality or whatever it is. He's going to find somebody and leave you. And then what? I chose me. When push came to shove, I chose me. Because I had given everything I can to these people that I brought into the world. Them to run off with it. We need to stop doing everything for our children. Make them work for it. Teach them manners. Teach them how to engage with people. Teach them how to be compassionate. Teach them not to eat every goddamn piece of food in the fridge that's cooked. Teach them when there's food in the fridge to ask, would you like some of this? Those are the people that are successful in the corporate world. That are not self-centered are the most successful people in the world. People that are looking to serve other people. And then the universe blesses them. Mark Zuckerberg did not start Facebook because he wanted to do something amazing. He didn't know where he would be. Mark Zuckerberg just made Facebook so that a few of his friends and them could get together. He was serving. He didn't know this thing was going to become a monster that it is today. His focus was to serve the world. We're bringing up self-centered people. They don't want to work. They just want to be begging in people's inboxes or sleeping their way through life. We have to do better. And I understand that before you drive a car, they give you a booklet that you read. And that booklet now, you go take an exam and they give you a learner's permit. Then you do a physical class, physical driving, and then you do a physical driving test. And then you get a driver's license. And even then, you can't drive, but there's restrictions according to age and all that. But anybody can have a child. So I totally understand. But what gives me a lot of sadness is that a lot of us, and I say us because I'm in that bucket myself, we learn so much after the fact. Well, I remember my parents always talking about the joy of raising children, the joy, the joy, the joy. Honey, when I look at my life and the shege that I showed my father, should have shared these experiences with everybody else. Believe me, all these people having 14, 15, 16, 18, 19 kids will never do it. Because, first of all, if you're a woman and you're like 35, 40, and you're having children at 40, you're tired. Nothing wrong with you having 50. But I'm telling you, I had my last son, I was 40. I was exhausted. Plus, menopause is around the corner. And I'm not saying that because my last son, who I spoiled, yeah, oh my God, I'm so proud of myself. I can actually own it. Yeah, I spoiled my last son. I did everything for him. Housekeeper will come in and I'll tell him, the best, the boy was smart. He was just lazy. And I love him to death. The boy would, instead of making his bed in the morning, he would make the bed, blanket and everything. And he would use the spare blanket to cover himself so that when he woke up in the morning, all he had to do was fluff the bed. Imagine if he took that creativity to his books. Imagine if he took that creativity in the way he dealt with the people around him, instead of acting like a diva, because he's the king. I've been talking for quite too long. So I'm going to end here. I want us all to start to have conversations with our children, to start to build boundaries with our children, to start to make our children work for things so they understand that instant gratification is not long-term. Instant gratification is not a long-term plan. I get that we live in a world of chat GPT. I get that we live in a 7-second attention span. And I totally get that we live in a world of Twitter with only a certain number of characters to write a piece. But the way the world is going is very scary. A lot of these children don't know who they are. The rate of mental illness among teenagers across the globe is high. That's because we let the dam open. Children need boundaries. They need structure. Age-appropriate information should be given to these kids. Because what's the point of giving a 4 or 5-year-old information about sex and sexuality? They can comprehend it. What's the sense of giving your child an iPhone that has the internet? The society is totally gone bonkers. What are we doing? What are we parents doing? We can't even speak the truth anymore because people are afraid to be politically correct. We got to do better. Men, I'm still on the fence. I'm 35 and I see how crazy the world is now. It gives me anxiety to raise a child in this world and with all the pressure of society. Thank you for being transparent. Because at the end of the day, right, we have to choose what works for us. So if you're consciously child-free, it doesn't mean that you can't help to raise other people's child or children. It takes a village to raise a child. A lot of what I endured in my 32 years of raising children, my oldest child is 32 and my youngest is 20. I bring it to the table as a mentor. I bring it to the table as someone that's running that pot created. Solar Wilson Guardian Angels scholarship program that my wife and I self-fund. Because the opportunity that we had, the wisdom that we've gained, it would be really bad if we take it with us. It really will be. And you know something though? I know it's hard to do the right thing in 2023. I know it's hard to speak the truth in 2023. But we must continue to speak the truth. We must continue to allow our children to stay children. We must continue to give them boundaries and responsibilities so that their tomorrow can be better than their today. It would suck for a child to have everything at a young age and then get older because they have nothing, because they were never taught how to hold a job down. They were never taught compassion. They were never taught to respect. They were never taught couth. And all of that is a muscle they have to exercise. It's not something that you just give them a book and they read it and they have to practice it. Let them start in your home. Some people will think you're mean because you don't allow your TV during the week or spend 24 hours on the computer. Some people will think you're mean because you don't allow your 10-year-old or 12-year-old to go to parties till 11:30 at night. Some people would think you're mean because you're not buying your children $300-400 sneakers. No, you're not. You're teaching them how to become responsible adults, how to sustain themselves. You're teaching them to do the work today so that their tomorrow might be better. My son, my oldest son that left at 16 because he couldn't adhere to our house rules, is now back. He came back and apologized. And I also apologize for whatever Jabajantis I did too. But he's back. Because when you allow them, sometimes tough love is what a child needs. When you allow them to experience life at an early age, they don't turn into bomb boys. When you cut off your child at 17, 18, they go through that hardship. They realize what values you bring to them and what values they have within themselves, because now they have to struggle to pay their own bills. Tough love is the best kind of love, because when they get older, they will see the value in all those things that you've instilled in. They will see the pain and the courage it took for you to do those things. When I cut off my son, I gained weight. I slept. Thank God for my wife. I was depressed for a very long time. But I would have done him a very bad injustice if I'd continued the way I was. We all can do better. The people we bring into the world themselves can do better. But we need to be consistent. We need to what it is that we're trying to preach. We got to practice what we preach. We can do better. Let's not allow TikTok and Twitter and IG and Facebook to raise our children and take them away from us. Because these kids, they're lost. I talk to a lot of them. They don't know who. By the time I was 15, 16, I knew what I wanted to do in life. The majority of the kids I mentor don't know. Very few of them do. And that's because they've never had the opportunity to even try something, read about something. How many of your children read books? How many? I have a friend that's a doctor and her husband is a doctor as well. They have no TV in their house at all. And their child, who's I think 8 or 9, doesn't have a cell phone. The boy is smart as a whip. And he cooks at 8-year-old. African parents. Oyinbo man will come and say, oh, that's child abuse. No, it's raising with all the madness in this world. You got to protect your children. It's been swell. I thank you for making the comments. Share the video for me. Let's talk. Let's continue to talk about these things. Let's continue to share stories. Let's continue to put these stories out there so people know they're not alone. So people know that, other people are going through the same things. Don't be ashamed. Somebody abused me on this page the other day. I don't know. Well, I don't know who was on this thread one day on my public page. And I'm talking to the guy. He's actually a homophobe or something. I don't know. And he goes, yeah, that's why your children left. I didn't skip a bit because I feel no guilt. My kids didn't leave me. I told them to go if they can adhere to my rules. And the rules are basic: human decency, respect, compassion, empathy for me. Not even an outsider. Right? I told them, I said, I'd rather have healthy children than dead children. because those kind of kids are the ones that the cop will tell to stop and they won't stop. We already know there's racism out there. And boom, instead of me having the ability to sue, I would have to bury, God forbid, that child. So don't be ashamed of your story. You're not the only one. Let me tell you, look, go to Facebook and put in mothers of narcissistic kids. Put in stepchildren. You'll see so much out there. So many stories. You're not the only one. Victor Ngozi Udensi, feel free to shoot me a channel, a message. I'll definitely reach out. But we have to come to my show. Look, I don't make money off of these things that I do. I'm a certified life coach and diversity specialist. I'm certified. I don't charge people. I make them make donations to charity. Let's heal together. Let's grow together. Let's talk to each other. Let's share our stories so that the people that are going through these things thinking it's just them, it's important that they know that it's not just them. Great conversation today. And feel free to send me a message. I will definitely look at it. I thank you all for being here. Please share the video for me. This is not about followership. I don't care who follows me, who doesn't follow me. You guys know that anyways. And I no longer speak unless I am able to speak the truth. Not my truth, the truth. A lot of people are not ready to hear it. A lot of people don't want to hear it. But that's not my problem. That's not my problem. Share the video. It will resonate with people that are going through the same problem that we're talking about. It's 5 people that you and I can save. We've done our job. I'm not a social media influencer. I could care less. I make my money in real estate. But I just believe I'm a messenger. And will continue to speak authentically. I'll continue to live my life authentically. And I hope you do too. But it takes a village to raise a child. So share the video for me. Let's get this together. Let's get this done. And please have these conversations with your friends, with your people, right? So that they too can improve their lives. They too can raise healthy children. Because look, when you're Black, white people have it hard, but when you're Black, it's 10 times as hard. I have to work 10 times as hard as my counterparts. Thank God I have home training, because I would not be able to eat if I didn't have home training like a lot of these kids. And a lot of them are not able to hold down jobs. We have a problem. We have a huge problem in society in general. But this type of conversations, I believe, is the first step. Let's continue the conversation in the chat. And I hope to see you next time. Thank you all for being here. This is Moji Wilson, and this is Authentic Conversations.